All right, since we have the test tomorrow, let's review the whole unit. Okay, so we started pretty simple. We started with just the ratio. Remember, ratio is the fancy word for saying fraction. So find the value of each trigonometric ratio. We learned that the biggest side, we call that hypotenuse. So let me label the sides. Let me call this big side hypotenuse. And then here, because I'm asking sine of x, right here at x, that's where theta will go. Sometimes I wrote a theta, sometimes I call this like sine of x. Now from theta, 12 is the opposite and 35 is the adjacent. Opposite means far away, adjacent means close to. And I gave you guys an acronym, right? So, well, a few acronyms. So, katoa, sine starts with an S. So I'm going to use the acronym SO, which stands for sine is opposite over hypotenuse. In this case, I'm going to go 12 over 37. If you can simplify the fraction, by all means, do so. In my case, I cannot. So I'm just going to leave it as 12 over 37. All right, let me flip the page. Let's take a look at question number 70. It's right here. All right, so again, the big side, I'm doing the trigonometric ratio on this one again. So the big side is the hypotenuse. It says tangent of z. So right here at the corner of z, that's where theta will go. So that means 24 is the opposite and 18 is the adjacent. For tangent, I gave you guys the acronym TOA, which stands for tangent is opposite over adjacent. So I'm going to go 24 over 18. Now, on this one, my numbers I can simplify, right? I could divide each by 6. So let me divide each by 6. So my answer will be 4 over 3. All right, not too bad. And then we move into using the ratios to solve for either an angle or a side. Now here it says find the missing side round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so 1 decimal place. My answer would be 1 decimal place. Let me see what places what sides I have. I have the hypotenuse, and based on the 28 degrees, I have x is the opposite. Now O and H from SOHCAHTOA, I know I'm gonna be using SO, which stands for sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So I'm just gonna say sine of 28 is equal to x over 12. Now, it is nice that x is on the top. If it was not on the top, remember we made both sides a fraction and then we we flip the fractions to get the x on the top. Now it is on the top already, so I'm just gonna multiply both sides by 12, because that way these 12s cancel out. Now x equals 12 times sine of 28. All right, let me get a calculator for that. So I'm just gonna go, make sure you have degrees. Every time I open my calculator, it opens on radians. So make sure you're seeing degrees. You have to have it on degrees. So I'm just gonna go 12 times sine of 28. So make sure I have what I need. It's 5.63. And remember, I had to run it to 1 decimal place, so 5.6. Let's take a look at number 72. Find the measure of the indicated angle to the nearest degree. All right, so I'm going to solve for the angle now, but I'm going to the nearest degree, so nearest whole number. Now, this question mark, let me replace it with an X. Remember, in algebra, we learned that when we don't know the value of something, we replace it with a letter. I have the hypotenuse and I have the opposite. So that means I'm using sine. So I'm just going to say sine of x, because it's always of the corner. Sine of x is equal to 7 over 12. So I'm just going to say that x is equal to sine inverse of 7 over 12. Okay. Remember, we saw this inverse. I'm just doing a review. So we saw this inverse not too long ago. So let me use my calculator for this. So let me clear this out. I'm going to use second, so that way I can see sine inverse of 7 over 12. So 7 divided by 12. Close my parentheses. Nearest whole number, right? So 35.6. I'm going to round it to 36. I'm going to the nearest whole number. So I'm going to say this is 36. Be careful in the instructions. You're going to the nearest tenth, that's one decimal place. Nearest degree, nearest whole number. And then we move into law of sines and law of cosines. Okay. So I see my triangle here. I have two angles. I have angle C and I have angle B. I'm gonna figure out what angle A is. All right, so I'm just gonna grab a calculator and I'm just gonna go 180 because I'm gonna start with a whole triangle. So 180, and I'm gonna subtract the two angles that I have. So 180 minus 137 minus 17. So I get that the third angle is 26. I might use the 26, I might not, but let me just be ready just in case. Okay, I'm asking you to solve for side AB. So find AB. This is what we call the side C, right? Side C is opposite of angle C. I have side B. Every time you have a side in the opposite angle, so notice I have side B and angle B. Once you have a side in the opposite angle, use the law of sines. So I'm going to say that C over sine of 137. Notice I went C and then sine of angle C equals 6 over sine of 17. Notice I went side B over sine of B, of angle B. Okay, and then let me extend this fraction a little. I have to multiply both sides by sine of 137. So here in this fraction, I'm just going to put it on the top. Sine of 137. That way these things cancel out. I'm going to get side C by itself. All right. So I'm just going to go 6 times sine of 137 divided by sine of 17. Make sure when you guys type things over, make sure you guys use parentheses, okay? So to not get the calculator confused. So let's see. I don't need this second. So I'm going to go 6 times, I had sine of 137, close parentheses, divided by sine of 17. Okay, my instructions, it said I had to round it to the nearest tenth. So the second decimal number is big enough, so it pushes the first decimal number, but this 9 is at the limit, so the 9 pushes the 3. So it ends up being 14.0, or just 14. I'm going to write the 0.0, but just 14 will be fine as well. All right, let's take a look at number 74. Okay, I only have one angle, so I cannot find the other angles. And I'm asking you to find BC. Okay, so I'm asking, if you notice side BC is the side that we call side A. All right, I only have angle A, but I don't have side A. So I cannot use the law of sines. In this case, I will have to use the law of cosines. Because I have angle A, I'm just going to use the formula A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times cosine of A. I know that my side C is 10, and I know my side B is 23. Remember, side C is opposite of angle C. Side B is opposite of angle B. So I can just do this. All right, I'm going to write A squared is equal to 23 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 23 times 10 times cosine of 92. I know it's kind of lengthy, but I'm just going to type it in anyway, so it's not much of a big deal. So I'm just going to go 23 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 23 times 10 times cosine of 92. I'm not quite done yet, so I'm going to use 4 decimal places. So 645.0538. Notice I rounded to 4 decimal places. Okay, so let's come back to my work. So A squared was 645 point, it was 0.0538. So I'm just going to do the square root on each side, right? In order to get A squared by itself, I'm just going to do the square root. So then I'm going to get A, which is what I'm solving for. Let me go back to my calculator. Square root of 645.0538. Okay, so my instructions here said round it to the nearest tenth. So 1 decimal place. So I see 25.39. So I'm going to call this 25.4. Okay. So this is 25.4. Not bad. Not bad. Let's take a look at solving for angles. Okay, so it says find the measurement of angle C. I have angle A, and I have side A, and I have side C. Okay, so I have angle A, and I have side A. So I have an angle in its opposite sides, so I'm going to use the law of sines. So I'm just going to say that sine of angle C over 12. Notice I went sine over side equals sine of 40 over 25. Let me multiply both sides by 12. So let me extend this. In multiplication, I always put it on top. So I know these 12s are going to cancel out. So that's going to give me sine of C. So I'm just going to go sine of 40. Make sure you guys use your parentheses when you type this. Sine of 40 times 12 divided by 25. Okay, that's not bad. Let me grab my calculator. I remember what I have to type, so let me clear this out. So sine of 40, close parentheses, times 12 divided by 25. Oh, I put an equal sign in there. Okay, so let's see. So let me type this again. So sine of 40 times 12 divided by, or doesn't let me go. Okay, there you go. Divided by 25 equals, okay, I'm not quite done yet. So I'm going to use 4 decimal places, 0.3085. So, it's 0.3085. So I'm going to say that C is sine inverse of 0.3085. I'm just going to type that in. So let me go back to my calculator. Let me clear this out. I'm going to go sine inverse of 0.3085. Okay, so I have to go to the nearest tenth. So the second number is a 6. That's big enough. So it pushes the 9 over. But the 9 is at the limit. So the 9 pushes the 7 over. So it's going to be 18.0. Not bad. Now let's take a look at question number 76. I'm solving for an angle. I have angle A, I have side B, and I have side C. The only angle that I have is angle A, but I don't have side A. So I cannot use the law of sines. The angle that I have is angle A. So I'm going to use that A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times cosine of A. Even though the instructions here is find the measurement of angle B, I can only find side A. I'll come back to that in a minute. So I have that A squared is equal to 25 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times 25 times 30 times cosine of 87. So it's not too hard to solve for A squared. So I'm just going to type this in. Let me clear this out. I don't need this second anymore. So I'm going to go 25 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times 25 times 30 times cosine of 87. Cool. 1446.4961. Okay. Let me come back here. So I remembered it was 1446.4961. So A is the square root of that. So let me come back to my calculator. 1446.4961. I'm still not quite done yet. So I'm gonna use 4 decimal places. So 38.0328. So 38.0328. So that means that this side is 38.0328. Okay. I was only able to solve for side A. Now I look at the question, and it was asking me to solve for angle B. So find the measurement of angle B. So now because I have angle A in side A, I will be able to use the law of sines. So I'm just going to say sine of B over 25. Notice I went sine over side is equal to sine of 87 over 38.0328. And I have to multiply both sides by 25. So I'm going to put my 25 on top of my fraction. So sine of B is sine of 87 times 25 divided by 38.0328. Okay, let me grab my calculator out here. Let me clear this out. So I'm just going to go sine of 87 times 25 divided by 38.0328. I'm not quite done yet. So I'm going to use 4 decimal places. So 0.6564. Okay, I'm almost done. I'm going to say angle B is going to be sine inverse of 0.6564. Okay, let me grab my calculator again. Let me clear this out. So second sine inverse of 0.6564. So 41.02. That two's too small. So 41.0. Okay. There's you guys' work. Good luck on the test.